covering climate, weather, and the industrial enterprise from Penn State Meteorology. Here is Up in the Air.
Welcome to this week's episode of Up in the Air. I'm Ryan DePhillips.
And I'm Zach Payton. We have climate stories that range from blocking high pressure systems to what are the odds of a white Thanksgiving.
But first, here's Update in the Air.
Warming waters are causing an assault on Antarctica. The glaciers are becoming more vulnerable to collapse, according to scientists, because the floating ice shelves are seeing declines in ice mass due to the warming climate. Antarctica has been losing about 250 billion tons of ice annually in recent years, and researchers are saying West Antarctica's ice shelves may reach tipping points and crumble, forcing sea levels to rise well beyond current projections. The floating ice shelves, which are partially frozen to the seafloor, hold back land-based ice that could reach sea level more than expected, according to Penn State climate researcher Richard Alley. In his research, Alley says that if the ice shelves collapse, it could raise the sea level 3 feet by 2100 and possibly 50 feet by 2500. Alley also states that the models are treated as a worst-case scenario.
Evidence of a much more wet and warm climate 250 to 300 million years ago was shown by unique yellowish-orange and brown minerals called spherites. The warm and moist climate caused a more pronounced yellowish-orange coloring to the minerals. Drier times before and after this time period caused more pronounced brown coloring. A key part to these changes were the variations of Earth's orbit and rotations. Some of the effects include more groundwater from heavy rainfall that reached as much as a half a mile below the Earth's surface. Groundwater is a very important part of the Earth's biosphere. Because of it all, the groundwater drained in our oceans, sea levels would rise 180 feet. Evidenced by spherites, groundwater is a key part to a scientist's understanding of how climate changes occur.
What are the odds of snow falling on Thanksgiving? Personally, I would rather have snow for Christmas, but Dr. Brian Bretschneider, the climatologist at University of Alaska Fairbanks, produced a map to illustrate the odds of a white Thanksgiving. The criteria used is at least 1 inch of snow already on the ground, or any measurable amount falling on Thanksgiving Day is considered a white Thanksgiving. If you are looking to see the falling flakes, your greatest chance for snow is in Canada and inland Alaska. For example, Fairbanks, Alaska has had a white Thanksgiving each of the past 88 years. The best odds for snow in the continental United States is in the northern plains and upper Midwest with a 60 to 80% chance of snow. If you are not looking for snow this holiday, then head to the West Coast and the South, where there is less than a 5% chance they see snow. The odds that Happy Valley witnesses snow for Turkey Day is between 10 and 20%.
Scientists are perplexed by an increase in global winds because in reality, it should be the opposite. From 2010 to 2017, the average global wind speeds increased 17% from 3.13 meters per second to 3.3 meters per second. This short-term fluctuation welcomes great fortune against global warming because of the extremely beneficial increase of renewable energy through energy turbines. Given that polar regions are currently warming faster than the tropics, temperature gradients are decreasing, which should lead to global decreases in winds. The more normal trend was from 1978 to 2010, where global wind speeds were decreasing 0.08 meters per second per decade. Scientists are not complaining about this anomaly because higher winds will generate more electricity. As turbines use energy from winds, 7% of the electricity demands will be met by 2024.
Venice, Italy is known as the City of Water and is most certainly living up to its name with all the flooding that has taken place in the past week. The city was hit by an unprecedented third major flooding event in less than a week. Authorities issued a state of emergency due to high tide peaking at 4.9 feet, marking the worst week for the city since official tide statistics started in 1872. For example, normal tide for the city is around 2.5 feet. Last Friday, the city closed its iconic St. Mark's Square for a second time in 3 days, as rain continued to fall in the city. Many store owners in the area and around the square emptied their shops while others raised their equipment and counted on pumping systems to keep the water at bay. Tourists continued to pour in, with some having garbage bags tied to their knees to view the city, as it is quickly diminishing due to rising sea levels and the city sinking into mud. Volunteers continue to help citizens and tourists get around the city and cope with the emergency. So far, the estimated damage from the salt water has hit over $1 billion.
Blocking highs. Strong high-pressure systems that stall in a given area are proven to be increasing in size and frequency. Through trial and error, scientists simplified equations which projected models that forecast more of these phenomena in the future. These blocking highs can result in deadly weather patterns such as heat waves, flash floods, droughts, landfalling hurricanes, polar outbreaks, and even nor'easters. Some of the deadliest weather disasters have occurred in the 21st century and are expected to continue. All over the world, scientists agree that stronger and more frequent deadly weather events have occurred and will continue in the years to come. So, scientists studying these blocking highs hope that other scientists will take this trend into account as the fight against climate change continues. So welcome back. So Zach, what do we have for our feature this week?
Yeah, so we have a feature from our very own Joe Spear regarding weather modification.
Weather dictates nearly everything we do, and since it has such a strong influence on us, some feel we have no other choice but to control it. So this idea of weather modification can take many forms, and it can be anything as small as making rain to as large as altering dangerous weather. But we'll start off with the small stuff. The amount of rain a cloud produces can be adjusted through cloud seeding. Tiny particles are dropped onto clouds in the hopes that as they develop, they will produce more precipitation. The only catch is that there must already be water vapor in the air. The results seem to be somewhat blurry between critics. Some say that the clouds were going to produce precipitation anyways, so the seeding likely changed nothing. In countries such as China, India, and the United States, cloud seeding has been used in drier climates. It can be dangerous when an area gets more rain than they asked for. Saudi Arabia experienced flooding in 2009 after seeding clouds due to poor drainage systems. The bigger weather is harder to control. Project Storm Fury was an attempt led by the United States in the late 1900s to lessen the strength of tropical cyclones through cloud seeding. Aircraft would fly into a cyclone and drop particles on the eye wall. The results came back inconclusive. Other attempts to weaken storms, such as using jet engines, oils on the ocean, and absorbents, have all had little to no effect. Tropical cyclones are typically too large and powerful for any human intervention to make a difference. Weather modification has even found its way into warfare. During the Vietnam War, the United States launched Operation Popeye. Popeye was a successful attempt to prolong the Southeast Asian monsoon season to throw off Vietnamese operations, mainly damaging roadways. The operation was exposed by the Pentagon Papers, and both chambers of Congress banned the idea of weather modification during war. The idea was also banned by the United Nations under the Environmental Modification Convention. A lot of variables go into controlling the weather that we have. In larger scale weather, it's harder to control just because of how complex it is. So simple things like Sharpies can't even compare to the technology that we use now to control the weather as little as we do. But maybe farther down the road, we may be able to crack the code on controlling what lies in the skies. For Up in the Air, I'm Joe Spear.
Welcome back. Now, Ryan, temperatures are starting to decline as we begin to progress our way later into November, early December times. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think temperatures and precipitation should be seasonable this time of year. I know as the days are getting shorter and temperatures are getting colder, there is that increase for snow, especially as we head into Thanksgiving. So Logan, what do you expect over the climate wall in the next couple weeks?
Yes, thank you, Ryan and Zach. I do expect it to start getting colder as we're heading deeper into the cold season of November. But first, we're going to look at our climate information for November 21st. Here, looking at an average high of 47 degrees, an average low of 33 degrees. Our record high was set back in 1991 of 72 degrees, and our record low was 13 degrees set back in 1987. Now, taking a step back and looking at our temperature outlook, valid November 26th to December 2nd, the first temperature outlook extending into the month of December. We can see a little bit of duality throughout the country with these above normal chances for higher than average temperatures over the southeast and below normal temperatures for much of the west. Now zooming in a little bit here to the Intermountain West, we can see this bullseye region for high chances of below normal temperatures across much of the Intermountain West, closer to average in coastal California. And then zooming into the southeast, we see we did see that there were chances for above average temperatures down here in Texas, extending into Florida, which has been the warm region for much of the time we've been filming this show throughout this semester. Higher chances for above normal temperatures throughout the state of Florida. And then that continues up into State College, well, not quite into State College, but parts of southeastern Pennsylvania where we have chances for above normal temperatures throughout this time period. Again, looking at the precipitation outlook, valid November 26th through December 2nd, a lot of the country is looking to have above normal chances for greater precipitation, with one small exception of southern Texas. So zooming into the Intermountain West, once again, we can see similar bullseye region for chances for above normal precipitation over much of the west parts of the Intermountain West. Down in Texas is our dry spot, with chances for below normal precipitation over much of southern Texas, extending up from Brownsville to Corpus Christi. And then as we head into the southeast, we keep those chances for above normal precipitation, which extends further north into the State College area and much of the northeast. Now, as we look at our drought monitor, there have been some big changes for some people across the country. So first, we're going to zoom into the Four Corners region and parts of California where there has been a large change. There continues to be severe drought extending throughout the Four Corners region, but look at this, we now have this enormous region, a good portion of the state of California, that is covered by abnormally dry conditions. Looking into the southeast, we can see there have been some major changes here as well, with not as much extreme drought over parts of Texas, only a few little bullseyes of extreme drought in southern Texas, and even parts of Alabama and Georgia are no longer seeing the extreme drought that they were dealing with earlier during the fall. Here in Pennsylvania, we also have moistened up a little bit with only a few areas of abnormally dry conditions throughout the state. Now, next up, we're going to be looking at our snow depth. Now, there isn't a whole lot going on across the country at this very moment. We do have just some peaks of snowfall in the higher elevations across the west, which is pretty average for this time of year. And then into the east coast, our axis for the heavier snowfall has been throughout the Great Lakes region, where they've had some flake effect snow and a few storms move through. Now, here's a new graphic that we're bringing to you for the first time. This is the CDC flu index that we're looking at across the country. Anywhere you see red, there is widespread flu. The orange is regional flu. Yellow is local activity. And the green is sporadic. So first we'll zoom into the west coast. We can see California is dealing with widespread flu reports at this moment, with regional flu activity reported in Nevada and into Texas. And then zooming into the eastern United States, we can see Maryland is having the widespread flu at this moment, while in Pennsylvania we're having more sporadic flu outbreaks. As for your weekend forecast for this coming weekend, the weekend right before Thanksgiving, where many people are starting to go home, it's looking to be a pretty average weekend for State College. We're looking at a high on Saturday of 41 degrees, a high on Sunday with 43 degrees, looking at generally mostly cloudy to partly cloudy skies both days, but there might be some chances for some rain or a little bit of wintry mix that might try to make their way in on Saturday. So keep that in mind if you guys are planning on heading home this weekend.
Yeah, that's right, Logan. So it doesn't look like there will be that snowstorm we saw last year, but
thankfully.
thankfully. So yeah, that's what we have.
Yeah, so thank you for tuning in for this week's edition of Up in the Air. We will not be recording next week, having the break for Thanksgiving. So make sure you all enjoy your time with your family if you're heading home. Safe travels, and thanks for watching Up in the Air.